My name is Emma and I'm 6. Today I'll be talking about Today I'll be reading my Harry Potter books. Although I finished all of them. I'll be reading the first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by Ch2 Rowling. Chapter 2, The Vanishing Glass. Nearly 10 years had passed since the Dursleys had woken up to find their nephew on the front step, but Privet Drive had hardly changed at all. The sun rose on the same tidy front gardens and lit up the box number 4 on the Dursleys' front door. It crept into its living room, which was almost exactly the same as it had been on the night when Mr. Dursley had seen that fateful news report about the owls. Only the photographs on the mantelpiece showed how much time had passed. 10 years ago, there had been lots of pictures of what looked like a large pink beach ball wearing different coloured bubble hats. But Dudley Dursley was no longer a baby, and now the photographs showed a large blonde boy riding his first bicycle on a roundabout at the fair, playing a computer game with his father, and being hugged and kissed by his mother. The room held no sign at all that another boy lived in the house too. Yet Harry Potter was still there, asleep at the moment, but not for long. His Aunt Petunia was awake, and it was her shrill voice which made the first sounds of the day. Get up now! Harry woke with a start. His aunt rapped on the door again. Up! He screeched. Harry heard her walking towards the kitchen, and then the sound of the frying pan being put on the cooker. He rolled onto his back and tried to remember a good dream he had been having. It had been a good one. There had been a flying motorbike in it. He'd had a funny feeling he had the dream before. His aunt was back outside the door. Are you up yet? He demanded. Nearly, said Harry. Well, get a move on. I want you to look after the good. Bless me. And don't you dare burn. I want everything perfect on Dudley's birthday. Harry ran. What did you say? His aunt snapped through the door. Nothing. Dudley's birthday. How could he have forgotten? Harry got slowly out of bed and started looking for socks. He found a pair under his bed. He found after pulling a spider off one of them, he put them on. Then Harry was used to spiders because the cupboard was full of them, and that was where he slept. He went down the hall into the kitchen. The table was almost hidden beneath all Dudley's birthday presents. It looked as though Dudley had got a new computer he wanted to manage not to mention the second television and the racing bike. Exactly why Dudley wanted a racing bike was a mystery to Harry, as Dudley was fat and hated exercise unless it involved punching somebody. Dudley's favourite punch bag was Harry, but he couldn't often catch him. Harry didn't look it. He's very fast. Perhaps it's something to do with living in a dark cupboard. But Harry had always been small and skinny for his age. He looked even smaller and skinnier than he really was, because all he had to wear were Dudley's old clothes of Dudley's, and Dudley was 4 times bigger than he was. Harry had a thin face, knobbly knees, black hair, hair's black, and bright green eyes. He wore round glasses taped together with sellotape, held together with little sellotape, because all the times Dudley had punched him on the nose. Pretend this is Harry and I'm Dudley and this. Oh. The only thing Harry liked about his own appearance was a very thin scar on his forehead, which was shaped like a bolt of lightning. He had it as long as he could remember. He had it for as long as he could remember. And the first question was he could ever remember asking his Aunt Petunia was how he got it. In the car crash when your parents died, she had said, and don't ask questions. Don't ask questions was the first rule for a quiet life of the Dursleys. Uncle Vernon entered the kitchen as Harry was turning over the bacon. Comb your hair, he barked, by way of morning greeting. About once a week, Uncle Vernon looked over the top of Harry and shouted, "Oh, Harry needed a haircut." Harry must have had more haircuts than the rest of the boys in his class put together. But it made no difference. His hair simply grew that way, all over the place. Harry was frying eggs by the time Dudley arrived in the kitchen with his mother. Dudley looked a lot like Uncle Vernon. He had a large pink face, not much neck, small watery blue eyes, and a thick pink face. Not much neck, large pink face, and thick blonde hair that lay smoothly on his thick, fat head. Aunt Petunia often said that Dudley looked like a baby angel. Harry often said that Dudley looked like a pig in a wig. Harry put the plates of egg and bacon on the table, as there wasn't much room. Dudley, meanwhile, was counting his presents. His face fell. 36, he said, looking at his mother. That's 2 less than last year. 7 then, said Dudley, going red in the face. Harry could see a huge Dudley tantrum coming on, began wolfing down his bacon as fast as possible in case Dudley turned the table over. Aunt Petunia obviously scented danger too, because she said quickly, "I will buy you another 2 presents while we're out today. How's that, Pumpkin? 2 more presents. Is that all right?" Dudley thought of a moment. It looked like hard work. Finally, he said slowly, "So I'll have 30 nice weekends," said Aunt Petunia. "Oh," said Dudley. "Oh." Dudley sat down heavily and grabbed the nearest parcel. "All right then," Uncle Vernon chuckled. Little Tyke wants his mother money is worth, just like his father. "Atta boy, Dudley." He ruffled Dudley's hair. At the moment, the telephone rang, and Aunt Petunia went to answer it, while Harry and Uncle Vernon watched Dudley unwrap the racing bike, a sign camera, a remote control aeroplane, 16 new computer games, and a video recorder. He was ripping off the paper of a gold wristwatch when Aunt Petunia came back from the telephone, looking both angry and worried. "Bad news, Vernon," she said. "Miss Figgs broke her leg." She jerked her head in Harry's direction. Dudley's mouth fell open in horror. But Harry's heart gave a leap. Every year on Dudley's birthday, he and his friend took him and a friend out for a day to adventure parks, hamburger bars, or the cinema. Every year, Harry was left behind with Mrs. Fig, a mad old lady who lived 2 streets away. Harry hated it there. The whole house smelled like cabbage, and Mrs. Fig made him look at all the photographs of all the cats she'd ever owned. "Now what?" said Aunt Petunia, looking furiously at Harry as though he had planned all this. Harry knew he ought to feel sorry that Mrs. Figgs had broken her leg, but it wasn't easy when he reminded himself it would be a whole year before he had to look at Tibbles, Snowy, Mr. Paws, and Tufty again. "We can find Marge," Vernon suggested. "Don't be silly, Vernon. She hates the boy." The Dursleys often spoke about Harry like this, as though he wasn't there. Or rather, as though he's something that couldn't understand them, the slug. What about, what's her name, your friend, Yvonne? "On holiday in Majorca," snapped Aunt Petunia. "You can just leave me here," Harry put in hopefully. "You'd be able to watch what you wanted on television for a change, and maybe even have a go on Dudley's computer." Aunt Petunia looked as though she just swallowed a lemon. "And come back and find the house in ruins," she snarled. "I won't blow up the house," said Harry, but they weren't listening. I suppose we could take him to the zoo, said Aunt Petunia slowly, and leave him in the car. That car's new. He's not sitting in it alone. Dudley began to cry loudly. In fact, he wasn't really crying. It had been years since he'd really cried, but he knew that if he screwed up his face and wailed, his mother would give him anything he wanted. Dinky Duddy Dums, don't cry. Mummy won't let him spoil your special day, she cried, flinging her arms around him. I don't want him to come, Dudley yelled between huge pretend sobs. He always spoils everything. She shot Harry a nasty grin through the gap of his mother's arms. Just then, the doorbell rang. Oh, good Lord, they're here, said Aunt Petunia. And a moment later, Dudley's best friend, Piers Polkiss, walked in with his mother. Piers was a scrawny boy with a face like a rat. He was usually the one who held people's arms behind their backs. While Dudley hit them. Dudley stopped pretending to cry at once. Half an hour later, Harry, who couldn't believe his luck, was sitting in the back of the Dursleys' car with Piers and Dudley on the way to the zoo for the first time in his life. His aunt and uncle hadn't been able to think of anything else to do with him, but before they left, Uncle Vernon had taken Harry aside. I'm warning you now, boy. Any funny business, anything at all, and you'll be in that cupboard from now until Christmas. I'm not going to do anything, said Harry. Honestly, but Uncle Vernon didn't believe him. No one did. The problem was, strange things often happened around Harry, and it was just no good telling the Dursleys he didn't make it happen. Once Aunt Petunia, tired of Harry coming back from the barber's looking as though he hadn't done at all, had taken a pair of kitchen scissors and cut his hair so short he was almost bald except for his fringe, which he left to hide that horrible scar. Dudley had laughed himself silly at Harry, and who spent a sleepless night imagining school the next day, where he was already laughed at for his baggy clothes and sellotaped glasses. The next morning, however, he got up to find his hair exactly as it had been before Aunt Petunia had sheared it off. He had been given a week for this, even though he had tried to explain that he couldn't explain how it had grown back so quickly. Another time, Aunt Petunia had been trying to force a revolting jumper of Harry's or Dudley's brown and orange, brown with orange bubbles. The harder she tried to pull it over his head, the smaller it had become. until it was the size of a puppet, and it certainly wouldn't fit Harry. Petunia had decided it was shrunk in the wash. And to his great relief, Harry wasn't punished. On the other hand, he got into terrible trouble for being found on the roof of the school kitchens. Dudley's gang had been chasing him as usual, as much to Harry's surprise as anyone else's, there he was, sitting on the chimney. The Dudleys had received a very angry letter from Harry's headmistress that Harry had been climbing school buildings. But all he tried to do, as he shouted at Uncle Vernon through the locked door of the kitchen, was jump behind the bins outside the kitchen doors. Harry supposed that the wind must have caught him in mid-jump. But today nothing was going to go wrong. It was even worthy of Dudley and Piers to be spending the day somewhere that wasn't school, his cupboard, or Mrs. Fig's cabbage-smelling living room. While he drove, Uncle Vernon complained to Aunt Petunia. He liked to complain about things. People at work, Harry, the council, Harry, the bank, and Harry were just a few things of his favourite subjects. This morning it was motorbikes, roaring along like maniacs, the young hoodlums, he said as a motorbike overtook them. I had a dream about a motorbike, said Harry, remembering suddenly. It was flying. Uncle Vernon nearly crashed into the car in front of his. He turned right around in his seat and yelled at Harry, his face like a gigantic beetroot with a moustache. Motorbikes don't fly! Dudley and Piers nodded. I know they don't, said Harry. It was only a dream. But he wished he hadn't said anything. If there's one thing the Dursleys hated even more than his asking questions, was his talking about anything acting in a way it shouldn't. No matter if it was dream or even a cartoon, they seemed to think that he might get dangerous ideas. It was a very sunny Saturday and the zoo was crowded with families. The Dursleys bought Dudley and Piers large chocolate ice cream at the entrance, and then, because the smiling lady in the van asked Harry what he wanted before they could cover him away, they bought him a cheap lemon ice lolly. It wasn't bad either, Harry thought, licking it as they watched a gorilla scratching its head and looking remarkably like Dudley, except that it wasn't blonde. Harry had the best morning he'd had in a long time. He was careful to walk a little apart from the Dursleys, so that Dudley and Piers were starting to get bored of the animals by lunchtime, or didn't fall back on the favourite hobby of hitting them. They ate in the zoo restaurant, and when Dudley had a tantrum about his knickerbocker glory wasn't big enough, Uncle Vernon bought him another one, and Harry was allowed to finish the first. Harry felt afterwards that he should have known it was all too good to last. After lunch, They went to the reptile house. It was cool and dark in here, with lit windows all along the walls. Behind the glass, all sorts of lizards and snakes were crawling and slithering all over bits of wood and stone. Dudley and Piers wanted to see the huge poisonous cobras and thick man-crushing pythons. Dudley quickly found the largest snake in the place. It could have wrapped its body twice around Uncle Vernon's car and crushed it into the hard bin. But at the moment, it didn't look in the mood. In fact, it was asleep. Dudley stood with his nose pressed against the glass, staring at the glistening brown coils. "Make it move," he whined to his father. Uncle Vernon tapped on the glass, but the snake didn't budge. "Do it again," Dudley ordered. Uncle Vernon rapped the glass smartly with his knuckles, but the snake snoozed on. "This is boring," Dudley moaned. He shuffled away. Harry moved in front of the tank and looked intently at the snake. He wouldn't have been surprised if it had died of boredom itself. No company except stupid people drumming their fingers on the glass, trying to disturb it all day long. It was worse than having a cupboard as a bedroom, where the only visitor was Aunt Petunia hammering on the door to wake you up. At least he got to visit the rest of the house. The snake suddenly opened its beady eyes, slowly, very slowly. It raised its head until its eyes were on a level with Harry's. It winked. Harry stared, then he looked around to see if anyone was watching. They weren't. He looked back at the snake and winked too. The snake jerked its head towards Uncle Vernon and Dudley, then raised its eyes to the ceiling. It gave Harry a look that I get that all the time. "I know," Harry murmured through the glass, though he wasn't sure the snake could hear him. It must be really annoying. Snake nodded vigorously. "Where do you come from anyway?" Harry asked. The snake jabbed its tail at a little sign next to the glass. Harry peered at it. Boa constrictor, Brazil. Wasn't nice there. The boa constrictor jabbed its tail at the sign again and read on the specimen was bred in the zoo. Oh, I see. So you've never been to Brazil? As the snake shook its head, a deafening shout behind Harry made both of them jump. "Dudley, Mr. Dursley! Come and have a look at the snake. You won't believe what it's doing." Dudley came waddling towards them as fast as he could. "Out of the way, you!" he said, punching Harry in the ribs. Caught by surprise, Harry fell hard on the concrete floor. What came next happened so fast no one saw how it happened. 1 second, Pies and Dudley were leaning right up close to the glass. Next, they had leaped back with howls of horror. Harry sat up and gasped. The glass front of the broken ship's tank had vanished. The great snake was uncoiling itself rapidly, slithering out onto the floor. People throughout the reptile house screamed and started running for the exits. As the snake slid swiftly past him, Harry could have sworn a long hissing voice said, "Brazil, here I come. Thanks, amigo." The keeper of the reptile house was in shock. "But the glass," he kept saying. "Where did the glass go?" The zoo director himself made Aunt Petunia a cup of strong, sweet tea while he apologized over and over again. Piers and Dudley could only gibber. As far as Harry had seen, the snake hadn't done anything except snap playfully at their heels as it passed. But by the time they were all in Uncle Vernon's car, Dudley was telling them how it had or nearly bitten it off his leg, while Piers was swearing it had tried to squeeze him to death. But it was the war, for Harry at least. Piers coming down to say. "Harry was talking to it, weren't you, Harry?" Uncle Vernon waited until Piers was safely out of the house before starting on Harry. He was so angry he could hardly speak. He managed to say, "Go, cupboard." "No. Stay." "No," Mills, before he collapsed into a chair and Petunia had gone and get him a large brandy. Harry lay in his dark cupboard much later, wishing he had a watch. He didn't know what time it was yet, and he couldn't be sure the Dursleys were asleep yet. Until they were, he couldn't risk sneaking into the kitchen for some food. He'd lived with the Dursleys almost 10 miserable years, as long as he could remember. Ever since he had been a baby and his parents had died in the car crash. When he was being younger, Harry had dreamed of some unknown relation coming to take him away, but it had never happened. The Dursleys were his only family, yet sometimes he thought, or maybe hoped, that strangers in the street seemed to know him. Very, very strange strangers they were too. Tiny man in a violet top hat had bowed to him once while out shopping. Aunt Petunia and Dudley. After asking Harry furiously if he knew the man, Aunt Petunia rushed them out of the shop without buying anything. A wild-looking old woman dressed all in green waved merrily at him once on a bus. A bald man in a very long purple coat had actually shaken his hand in the street the other day and then walked away without a word. The weird thing about all these people was the way they seemed to vanish every time the second time Harry tried to get a closer look. At school, Harry had no one. Everybody knew that Dudley's gang hated that odd Harry Potter in his baggy old clothes and baggy and broken glasses. And nobody liked to disagree with Dudley's gang. Bye-bye. The end of chapter 2. Bye.